Primary versus secondary sources. The function of the historian is neither to love the past nor to emancipate himself from the past, but to master and understand it as the key to the understanding of the present. History is the study of the past. Historians place a great emphasis on primary sources, people writing based on events they or their immediate friends actually experienced, rather than secondary sources, writing merely based on hearsay or unconfirmed reports. So how do we understand the difference between these two types of sources? In history class, do our teachers provide us with the proper knowledge to conduct historical investigations? Where do we look to find the most authentic and accurate information when performing an historical inquiry? What are primary sources? According to the University of California, Berkeley Library website, primary sources are created usually during the time period being studied or at a later date by a participant in the events being studied. They reflect the individual viewpoint of a participant or observer. Primary sources enable the researcher to get as close as possible to what actually happened during an historical event or time period. Now, let's look at the difference with secondary sources. A secondary source is a work that interprets or analyzes an historical event. It's generally at least one step removed from the event and is often based on primary sources. Examples include textbooks, scholarly books and articles, and encyclopedias and other reference books. Let's look at the historic event, the atomic bomb dropping over Hiroshima and Nagasaki during the Pacific War. For students to gain a better understanding of President Truman's decision to drop atomic bombs during the Pacific War, it's necessary for them to investigate both primary and secondary documents for their research to truly gain the best perspectives on the U.S. military actions in Pearl Harbor, as well as the Japanese point of view of the war in the Pacific. Additionally, students should learn more about the United States Manhattan Project, the construction of the atomic bomb, and the debate within the Truman administration on whether the bomb should have been used against Japan and how. Primary sources, such as the actual footage shown here taken during the drop of the atomic bombs, are a great way for students to get a more personal eyewitness account experience. Other primary sources, such as photographs, classified documents, artifacts, and even interviews, can provide students with deep, realistic insight as they conduct their historical inquiry.
Suddenly had a high fever with enduring pains all over. She cried, kill me, kill me. And even injection couldn't also happen so easily. So she was confined to bed almost 4 months without moving. But she had a very strong mind, and she had a hard exercise for rehabilitation. And she's now very well. She's like my grandson. It's amazing. So all the doctors said it was miracle that she got well. My father and my grandfather were here on that day. One died soon and the other survived. The lucky person was my father. He was a teacher and his schoolhouse was 3 kilometers from here. He stayed there 2 whole days looking for the missing students. All his life, he's very stubborn. I think it's my duty as a survivor to let the visitors know what I am here. I think it's my lifeline. You know, Hiroshima has 3 very important messages to send all over the world. So of course, the first one is a tragedy of Abrams, and the second one is a quick recovery, and the third one is very, very precious, especially to American people. As you see, you cannot find any words or any survivor who show that show hatred against American people. As you know, even now, U.S. government is justifying the droppings of A-bombs here in Nagasaki. That we have already forgiven them. Because we know hatred produces new hatred and lasts forever.
Even diaries, political propaganda posters, songs, and original speeches from the time of the historical event can be so beneficial for a student to truly grasp the feelings and emotions of the period.
To hear our answer. We have conclusively proven that a free people can successfully look after the affairs of the world. We're here today to raise the flag of victory over the capital of our greatest adversary. In doing that, we must remember that in raising that flag, we are raising it in the name of the people of the United States who are looking forward to a better world, a peaceful world, a world in which all the people will have an opportunity to enjoy the good things of life and not just a few at the top. Let's not forget that we are fighting for peace and for the welfare of mankind. We're not fighting for conquest. We want peace and prosperity for the world as a whole. We want to see the time come when we can do the things in peace that we have been able to do in war. If we can put this tremendous machine of ours, which has made this victory possible, to work for peace, we can look forward to the greatest age in the history of mankind. That's what we propose to do.
A secondary source is a document that relates or discusses information originally presented elsewhere. A secondary source contrasts with a primary source and involves analysis and interpretation of the original information. Secondary sources include magazines, books and recordings, and even comic book style editions such as Barefoot Jen, written by the author of Mouse, Art Spiegelman, that provides an honest portrayal of emotions and experiences during the bombing of Hiroshima and the aftermath. Sometimes secondary sources include primary sources within them. Though your history textbook is a secondary source and someone wrote most of your textbook long after the historical events took place, your textbook may have many primary sources, such as direct quotes from people living in the past or excerpts from historical documents. People living in the past left many clues about their lives. These clues include both primary and secondary sources in all these types of forms and more. Historians call all of these clues together the historical record. As you investigate a variety of historical resources, you'll be better able to critically evaluate for origin, content, and meaning. Knowing the difference between these types of sources will better help you analyze and evaluate the reliability of your sources and create a link of the past to the present. Then, you will be well on your way to unlocking the answers to your historical inquiry.
He was a famous trumpet man from out Chicago way. He had a boogie style that no one else could play. He was the top man at his craft. But then his number came up and he was gone with the draft. He's in the army now, a blowin' reveille. He's the boogie-woogie bugle boy of Company B. They made him blow a bugle for his Uncle Sam. It really brought him down because he couldn't jam. The captain seemed to understand, because the next day the cap went out and drafted a band. And now the company jumps when he plays reveille. He's the boogie-woogie bugle boy of Company B. A toot, a toot, a toot-dilly-a-toot, he blows it 8 to the bar. In boogie rhythm, he can't blow a note unless the bass and guitar is playing with him.